what is the biggest reality check when you first moved your proof of concept to a live production agent? If you can share any interesting insights, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, right? Everybody, and every now and then, every day when I wake up, I see there are five different processes, three different frameworks. And when we are in this space and in the tech, the goal is always to build something that is new, that's better, that works the best. But how do you really measure better? How do you really measure if what you have in place right now, does it need an upgrade? If it needs an upgrade, what are the baseline metrics that you're really evaluating it against? So my answer to that would be twofold, right? First is, I think it's always been there in the software development lifecycle, the 80-20 rule. So the most of the time when, and I am guilty of that too, because I am a data scientist by profession and I've been in the field for 10 years. My goal, I get excited every time I see a new model, and it's like I have to implement that and implement that with the new framework and see how it works. But I think as and when you think more from not only like your developer perspective, but more of like the business function, that how are you really adding value to the business? Is the ROI worth it? You kind of do that 80-20 rule again. So 80% of the focus should be on all those use cases where, like they say, low hanging fruit, but that doesn't mean that it's not important. It means that it has a bigger impact, and your impact to effort ratio is like good, and you can take that on rather than spending, I don't know, 6 months just prototyping, and by that time the framework has already been obsoleted. And we've been seeing and just talking about it, right? Like some models came up 6 months ago and now they're like extinct from the scene, and we are like, okay, what are we really doing here? So that's my first take. And I think the second biggest lesson I feel is that most of the time, and it has been true even during like when we were building predictive ML machine learning models, but it was easier to handle then because our systems were deterministic and we had like a good set of historical data that we were comparing it against, and comparing one is to like apples to apples. Now it's more like the generative AI systems are giving so much output. How do you really categorize it? How do you really uh, define your matrix, and not just matrix that, oh, it gave me productivity gains? What productivity gains? Is it say how saving how much of your dollars, how much of your developers time, or is it like adding I don't know, like reducing cycle of completion? So very specific methods of evaluating of why you are really doing an agentic AI application or building it through. But yeah, I feel like if these two processes are nailed in the head before you begin your process, the chances of success definitely increases multifold.